to my channel. Today, I am doing an eyeshadow battle video, like a battle of the eyeshadows video. So basically what this video is going to be is me trying out 5 brand new drugstore eyeshadow palettes. I made sure I kept a drugstore, like no ColourPop or Makeup Revolution or anything like that. Things you can get at the drugstore either online or in store, because I wanted it to be a truly drugstore based video for those of you who are on a tighter budget like myself. I have 5 different palettes here, and I have clips of me using each of the palettes that I'm going to show, and they're step by step showing you which shades I used, and also they include swatches. So I'm going to go in order of how I tried them. So like the first one I got was the first one I tried, and so on and so forth. And I have tried these palettes and used them multiple times since I've gotten them, so that's why this video is going up a little bit later, because these palettes have been around since at the latest like early January or late December. But I wanted to make sure I gave you a thorough review, less of a first impressions type of video and more of like a thorough review type video, so I could give you my honest opinion on each of them. And that way you guys can figure out which one is meant for you and which one you would rather like spend your money on, so you don't have to buy all 5 of them like I did myself. Let's just go ahead and get started. So the first eyeshadow palette that I purchased is Milani Gilded Nude palette. You're going to see me do this later in the video. But here it is. It is a rosy toned kind of palette. It says it's nude, but I would definitely classify it as more rosy toned because it has so many different mauves and reds and pinks. And so I'm going to break down how I feel about this palette, the specifics of it, and like, you know, how much it costs, how it works, all that kind of stuff. This one I did purchase off of Milani.com, but you can also purchase it at Target in store or online, and also you can get it at Walgreens and CVS. This one is described as having sumptuous mattes, shimmering rosy pinks, and chocolatey browns, undeniably gilded. So this is a part of a collection that Milani released that is called the Gilded Collection. They have a bunch of new stuff out, but this is the Gilded Eyeshadow Collection. They have 4 of the palettes. I don't remember the names of all of them. I have another one here that I'm going to discuss because I picked out the ones that I thought would be the most popular, like with the general crowd. So this one is more rosy. I thought it was going to be more nude, but online to me it looked a little bit more nude than it is in real life. But it is, sorry for the reflections, it's really dark outside because it's raining again, and so I had to use so much artificial light, which is why there's a shadow behind me and everything. But I wanted to record this video and get it up for you guys so you could investigate all the eyeshadow palette options. But it is definitely a little bit like kind of rosy. It does say that it is rosy pinks and like chocolatey browns. That's what it is described as and what it has. But I did think it was going to be a little bit more like nude, I guess. But I do like the color scheme of this palette. I think what threw me off about this palette was when I received it, I'm going to try to get as close as I can. The shimmer shades, which are this one right here, this one right here, this one right here, and this one right here, are really packed weird. Like the way they are put into the palette itself is quite strange. It is, oh, here's another shimmer over here that I forgot to mention, sorry. But they are very chunky when you first try to use them, so I was really disappointed when I first attempted it. But like once you get the first layer off, it's kind of like that e.l.f. highlighter. They work better. They're not the greatest. I don't know if you can see this. They're kind of patchy and weird. Like they're usable, you can work with them, but they are not, out of all of what I'm going to talk about, they're not the most impressive shimmer shades. So the mattes in here I did like a lot. I didn't have any problem with them being patchy or weird, not pigmented enough. I did even like the dark shade right here, which is the shade Hit Snooze. I guess I'll swatch it even though I have the swatch part. But the mattes are pretty nice. They're very pigmented off of the first swipe, and they perform well with the brush. So out of 10, I would rank this palette a 7 because it's not exactly what I was picturing when I thought of nude. The shimmers aren't the most impressive to me. I definitely think you could do better even with like single shades from the drugstore, some single shades from Wet n Wild, L'Oreal, Maybelline. It's not my favorite out of all of what I have here, but if you do think that you would use these kind of shades, then it is definitely a good option. Now, it is kind of expensive. It is $20 for a drugstore. It's not expensive for a general palette. The shades I used in this palette that I'm using in the clip that you are going to see right now were the shades Boozy Brunch, Little Spoon, and Me Time. And you're going to see me use those in actions here in a second before we jump into the next palette.
Alright, so I'm going into the Milani Gilded Nude palette, and I'm going to go in with the shade Boozy Brunch and use my Moda eyeshadow brush and put that on the outer corner, bringing it into the center of my eye a little bit. Kind of just making sure it's all blended and diffused, so I'm kind of doing it in light layers, not a bunch of heavy layers. So now I'm going to go in with my Real Techniques concealer brush to blend out the shade so that way I can make sure it's all blended. And now I'm going to go into the shade Little Spoon and put that on the outer corner, and this is also with my eyeshadow brush from Moda, and this is going to kind of stay on the outer corner and not go quite as far in as the other one did. Now I'm going to go back into that Real Techniques brush and blend it out, make sure it's all blended together and there's no patchiness or anything. And now I'm going to go into Me Time and put that on my lid and kind of just make it blend seamlessly into the other shades. And here's some swatches. So from left to right we have Weekender, People Watching, Detox, Me Time, Do Not Disturb, Boozy Brunch, Offline, 75 and Sunny, Keep Scrolling, Pampered, DGAF, Little Spoon, Add to Cart, Hit Snooze, and Chill.
On to the next palette. The next palette is also by Milani and also part of the Gilded collection. It is the Milani Gilded Gold, and it looks like this. And this was, when I first saw these launch, this was the one that caught my attention the most because of this shade right here. You don't usually find that kind of shade in a drugstore palette that actually performs well. It is extremely pigmented. I was actually very impressed, like even just right there, and then like on my hand, it's very easy to work with. It's not patchy when you use it, like on the lid. In the clip that you guys are going to see, I actually use it on the lower lash line because I wanted to kind of see how it performed like that, and it was really nice. This palette says that it has glamorous golds, ultra rich neutrals, and a bold pop of jade, which is the green color that I used. And this one I would definitely say is more neutral, more nude than the other one because it has the browns, it has the rose golds, it has this like tan right here. So this one I have been more inspired to use on an everyday basis as compared to the Gilded Nude because it is more, it contains more like everyday shades. So I really like this one. The same thing can be said for the shimmers in this one, but I will say that the shimmers in this one are better off the bat than the shimmers in the Gilded Nude one. I don't know if I got like a dud or something perhaps. They are still kind of stiff, but they are much easier to work with than, can you see it right here? They are much easier to work with than the one in the Gilded Nude right off the bat, like I said. So out of 10, I would give this palette probably an 8. I think it does deserve a little bit more than the Gilded Nude because of the performance of the shadows, the quality of the shimmers themselves, and also my expectations in the color scheme. So I would, if I had to pick between the two, I would go with this one over the Gilded Nude. If you guys were wondering, like if that's something that you would also do. So this one is also $19.99, just like the other one. And in the clip you guys are going to see, I use the shades Rose Nugget 100p and then Eden on the lower lash line to see them in action and also like how they work and the swatches on my arms.
Alright, so I'm going into the Milani Gilded Gold palette. I'm going to go into the shade 100p and use my Moda eyeshadow brush and put that on the outer corner, kind of bringing it in to the center of the eye as well, making sure it's all nice and blended and kind of trying to define the eye. Now I'm going into the Real Techniques brush to kind of blend this out, make sure it's not too strong or harsh or even a little bit patchy. I wasn't having any trouble with the shade being patchy as I have been on some of the other palettes. Now I'm going into the shade Rose Nugget and using my finger to place that on the lid. I really like the shimmer shades in this palette. I did notice that I have to scrape off the top layer to make them work to their full potential. And now I'm going into the shade Eden using a small lip brush to kind of define that lower lash line and bring in some color. And now I'm going into the smudger brush and kind of diffusing it out so it's not too strong. And here are some swatches. So from left to right we have Awesome, Rose Nugget, 100p, 24 Karat, Chow Bella, Extra Basic, Fembot, Ultra Gilded, Eden, Boss Lady, Cleopatra, Crown Jewel, De Oro, For the Throne, and Legacy.
And the next palette that I tested out was the NYX Mystic Petals palette. This is the dark Mystic version. There's another version that I just was so not interested in trying, to be honest. It just didn't inspire me. This one, it took me a while to want to purchase because, I don't know, like, it's definitely a different color scheme. These are not everyday kind of colors that most people would wear. There's not like a brown or a taupe or anything like that. The closest thing to that is this shade right here, which is number 5. And these don't have actual shade names. It retails for $12.99. You can get this at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target. You pretty much get it anywhere. And of course, you know, NYX website. This, it's not that I don't like this palette, it's just that I feel like I was left wanting more. So, like, I used the shades 2, 4, and 5, which are this one, and this one right here. And I thought it was a really pretty look. I really liked it. It kind of helped me step out of my comfort zone, and if that's what you're looking for, I do think this is a nice palette because it is an inexpensive one and you aren't required to wear it every day. I just, you know, this one was just a little bit patchy. The darker shades are a little bit patchy in it, and they, I don't know, I wanted more from it, and I haven't been inspired to use it a whole lot. Like, I've used it over and over again so I can give you guys a solid review, but when I use it, I'm not like, yay, I get to use the NYX Mystic Petals palette. Like, with the Milani, I was like that, and with some of the other ones I'm going to talk about, I was like that. But this one, I was just kind of like, oh, I'm using it just to see how it performs, and like, it's okay. The quality of the shadows are alright. I would say that they are pretty standard. It's a pretty standard quality for shadows. Nothing mind-blowing, but not super disappointing. Like, there are some that you have to work more with, like the darker shades, like I mentioned, because of the patchiness. And, you know, you really kind of have to build up the shimmers because they're more subtle, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. You know, like, it's okay for them to be subtle, so you can kind of build them up however much you want to. But it just wasn't something that I was like, I can't wait to use this again. So out of 10, I would give this a 4 out of 10. It was just, it didn't really meet any expectations. It wasn't super mind-blowing to me. It was kind of just, The packaging is very flimsy and kind of like easily breakable. Like with the other packaging here, I thought it was a little bit more sturdy. This like flops open really easily. I feel like it's just more prone to breaking because it's not very well protected. The mattes are fine, but not super great, not mind-blowing for me. And yeah, to be honest, I would just pass on this unless you guys are really looking for like a cheaper eyeshadow palette to fulfill your needs to kind of go out of your comfort zone. But yeah, I would definitely say that out of all the ones I'm going to talk about, this is my least favorite. And I'm going to rank them at the end based on my favorite to my least favorite, so you guys know. But yeah, I would pass on this if you guys see it. It's just not super mind-blowing to me. It's not necessarily bad, but it's not anything to write home about. And so now you get to see a clip of me kind of showing you how I worked with it.
Alright, so I'm going into the NYX Mystic Petals palette and going into the shade 2 and using my Moda shader brush and putting that on the outer corner of the eye, bringing it into the center. Now I'm going into the Real Techniques brush and kind of blending it out, making sure there aren't any harsh edges or any patchiness. And now I'm going into the shade 5 and using the same brush and putting that on the very outer corner of the eye, kind of layering it on top of shade 2 I just used. Now I'm using the Real Techniques brush and kind of blending it all together and making sure there isn't any patchiness. There was a little bit of patchiness with this shade when I applied it with the other brush. And now I'm going into shade 4 and using my finger to put that on the lid. It's kind of like a shifted two-toned glitter shade. The glitter shades in this are kind of dull but also kind of pretty. Alright, so there aren't any actual names for these shades, but I did want to tell you there are 10 shades and they are numbered 1 to 10.
So the fourth palette that I purchased was the Physicians Formula Rosé All Day Eyeshadow Bouquet palette. It looks like this. It's got very rosy tones, mauve, purples, some like maroons. This palette was really hard to obtain. I had to actually order it directly from Physicians Formula's website itself because it's exclusive at CVS, but literally sold out at every single location that is around me. And you can buy it at CVS.com, but I actually bought another Physicians Formula product that I'm using for a different video, so I figured might as well just get both of them and get free shipping. So this one is $16.99 on Physicians Formula website and CVS, just for anybody's interest. So a couple of things I want to note about this. First of all, the packaging is fine, very cheap sounding, like the plastic. I would prefer it had some sort of mirror instead of like a clear plastic thing. That's not useful to me. That's like a first world problem. The metallics in here are extremely weird. Like, I don't know if you can see them, but the metallics are this one, this one, this one, and this one. Maybe you can't. They have little white specks in them. Like, that's not shimmer. That is white specks mixed in with the actual color itself. And they are very subdued and kind of more of like a wash of color instead of being like a pop of color, so you really have to build them up. And they look really pretty on the eyes. I really like the way they look on the eyes. Like, when I was wearing it, I was like, this looks actually really pretty. But if you were looking for a pop of color, this is not the one to go for. But the mattes are incredible. The blendability of the shadows are right up there, top notch. I love it. It's just not, the shimmers are not what you're expecting when you're ordering it. You're like, these are going to be gorgeous, super metallic and beautiful, and they're not. They're a wash of color. And so just in case you guys are wondering, that is what you're going to get with this palette. The mattes are really incredible to me. They really blew me away. The shimmers are a wash of color, but they're very pretty and work really nicely. Like, they're not patchy or anything. None of these shades are patchy. So if I had to rank this one, it would probably be a 7 out of 10, just because of the cheapest kind of packaging. Down here is not super cheap. Like, it's hard cardboard, but this plastic up here is weird, and I wish it had a mirror. And I was kind of hoping, at least for my personal preference, I was hoping for more from the shimmer shades instead of just being a wash of color. But I do really like this, and if you guys are interested in these colors, which are very similar to the Milani one, I'm going to tell you at the end which one I think is more worth it when I'm ranking all of them, like from my favorite to my least favorite. So in the clip that you guys are going to see, the shades I used on my eyes were Pinkies Out, Nice Stems, and Fresh Bouquet.
Alright, so I'm going into the Physicians Formula Rosé All Day Bouquet palette, and I'm taking the shade Pinkies Out and using the Moda shader brush to put that on my outer corner, bringing it into the center. And now I'm going into the shade Nice Stems and really taking the same brush and putting that on the very outer corner and kind of defining it. And now I'm going into the Real Techniques brush to kind of blend it all together and make sure it's all seamless. And now I'm going into the shade Fresh Bouquet and using my finger to place that on the lid and make sure I have a nice sparkly sheen. And what I've noticed with this palette is that these metallics are a lot different than what you'd expect. So here are some swatches. From left to right, it's Fresh Bouquet, Nice Stems, Bottomless Brunch, Floor Real, Sure Wine Not, Yes Way Rosé, Winestone Cowboy, Berry Chic, Pinkies Out, Super Bloom, Flower Market, and Last Call.
So for the fifth and final palette, I have the Maybelline Nudes of New York palette. Let me open this so you guys can see it. This is a beautiful palette. Stunning. This one you can get at Ulta, CVS, and Walgreens, mostly online. I haven't seen them in any stores, but you can get them online. I think it's because this is the newest. This is the newest out of all of them. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. This is my absolute favorite. I'm wearing it on my eyes right now. I'm wearing an all matte look. The blendability of these mattes are top notch, like up there with Anastasia, better than Morphe shadows. I don't like Morphe shadows, but aside from that, the blendability of the mattes, the pigmentation of the mattes are amazing. Shimmer shades, stunning, absolutely stunning. I don't have any complaints about this palette. The darker shades are beautiful, no patchiness. The lighter shades are beautiful, also no patchiness. The pigmentation of these shadows really blew me away. This is the one that every single time I want to get ready, I'm like, I want to use that. Except for I have the Tati Beauty palette now too, and those two, this one and that one, are my favorites to use. But that one's not in this video. This one is just, it really kind of hits everything you might be looking for, if you ask me. It has like the warm shades over here, the neutral shades over here, and then it has like the cool rosy tones over here. I just think that they perform beautifully. I mean, this is me being presumptuous, I'm doing my own makeup at my wedding, and I think I might use at least some of the shades from here because they're very long lasting as well. They're very pigmented, they're easy to work with. It takes me so little time to put eyeshadow on. I can do a very extreme eyeshadow look and it takes me like maybe 5 minutes to do like everything, like the deep, the dark, the shimmery. And because this palette is so easy to work with, it's great for beginners, it's great for like experienced makeup artists and enthusiasts. And so I just really love this palette. I think that it is worth it. This one was $14.99, so it is the cheapest out of all of them except for the NYX Metal one, but it comes with a ton of shades. Blendability is amazing. I have nothing bad to say about this palette, for real. And I'm like, it's not even like I love Maybelline shadows. I've never really used Maybelline shadows because I wasn't really impressed by them, but this is like in another world. Amazing. Quality is great. Like, if you wanted to spend money on eyeshadow in general, not even just to save money, I would recommend this. Absolutely, because it's great, it's versatile, it's pigmented, it's blendable, it's pretty much anything that anybody's looking for. Packaging is not my favorite, it doesn't have a mirror, which seems to be a theme. But the layout of the shadows, I like the way they are laid out. Like, I like the appeal to them. I think they're pretty. The only thing I would change about it is the packaging without the mirror. I would add a mirror. And so for this one, I would give it a 9 out of 10, and the only thing I'm taking away is because of the mirror. In the clip that you will see, I use the shades Creator, Explorer, and Dreamer. And so yeah, I'm going to let you guys watch that, and then we're going to do a roundup of all of them.
So I'm going into the Maybelline Nudes of New York palette, and I'm going into the shade Creator, and I'm going to take my Moda shader brush and put that on the outer corner, kind of dragging it into the center like I normally do. And now I'm going into the Real Techniques brush and kind of blending out the harsh edges and making sure it's all blended out. And now I'm taking the shade Explorer on the same shader brush and putting that on the very outer corner, kind of piling it on top of the shade I just used and darkening it. And now I'm taking the same Real Techniques brush and blending it all out and making it seamless and blended together. And now I'm going into the shade Dreamer with my fingertip and placing that on the lid of my eye to really add a nice shimmer shade. And here are some swatches. So from left to right, we have Originator, Dreamer, Soloist, Creator, Artist, Pioneer, Globetrotter, Protector, Explorer, Founder, Heroine, Self-Starter, Voyager, Believer, Fighter, and Inspirer.
Now that you have seen all of the clips and all of my thoughts on each individual eyeshadow palette, I'm going to give you like a roundup of like the order of my favorites to my least favorites, kind of why, just kind of briefly talk about that because I've kind of pretty much talked about why I like each one and why I don't like some things about them. And then I'm going to say like which ones, if they're similar in color schemes, I'm going to say which ones I think that are more worth it. And so yeah, let's just go ahead and jump in. So like I already said, my favorite is the Maybelline Nudes of New York palette. I pretty much just spent 5 minutes gushing about it. It's absolutely stunning. Even if you guys are not looking for an inexpensive palette, just go and get this because you will not be disappointed. It really is in competition with higher end palettes, in my opinion. I'm pretty picky when it comes to eyeshadow performance. You don't always stick with drugstore specific eyeshadow palettes. Like, that's the thing that I would splurge the most on because I'm looking for performance the most in that. My second one is the Milani Gilded Gold palette. The reason I chose this to be my second one is because even though the shimmers are not my favorite for the Milani Gilded collection, I just think that the mattes are stunning. The shimmers are fine enough in this palette. They're much better than the Gilded Nude one. I just think that this one comes close to the Maybelline, not as close when it comes to shimmers and even with mattes, because the mattes are more blendable in the Maybelline. They're a little bit softer. These are a little bit stiffer, but not stiff. They're just a little bit stiffer in terms of comparison between the two palettes. But with the color scheme being, I mean, it's kind of similar to the other one, but they have this teal and some golds in here. I think that this is definitely worth $19.99. You can usually find these kind of things on sale. so keep an eye out for that. I appreciate the mirror in here. That is one thing that beats out all the other palettes. My third favorite is the Physicians Formula Rosé All Day. The reason I chose this to be the third favorite, like in the middle, is because the mattes are really great and I like the color scheme. It's not something I would use every day because I don't wear mauve-y tones every single day. And the shimmers are super strange, but I do think it is a beautiful palette, and I think you can get a lot done with this palette, and I think it's great and perfect for Valentine's Day, which is coming up, obviously, and that kind of themed day. The palette that I've placed fourth on my list is the Milani Gilded Nude. I've talked about why it didn't super disappoint me, but it didn't really impress me that much. It's just that the shimmers are not very user-friendly. They're kind of hard to manipulate and use. The mattes in here are nice, but they are just a little bit chalky. I don't know if I mentioned that in my first clip. Just a little bit chalky, not extremely, but I think the ones Gilded Gold palette of the Milani collection are a lot easier to work with, which I think is so strange because they are from the same company. I ordered both of them from Milani directly, so but this one is like, it's fine, but I wouldn't go run out and get it. And obviously, you know, the last one I pretty much could have guessed, because this palette is just not up to standards for me. I think the color scheme is weird. I know that it's supposed to be like darker and mystical, and I think that's perfectly fine, and I think that the shadows perform okay, but I would say that they are not mind-blowing. They are not really in competition with any of the other ones that I reviewed and really kind of tried to get to know and use and understand, like the way they worked and everything like that. It's just kind of subpar, and so I would definitely pass on this palette. I don't think that it's worth your money at all, and I might return it myself because I am not inspired to use this at all. So the Maybelline Nudes of New York and the Physicians Formula palette and then the Milani Gilded Nude palette have similar schemes in terms of, like, this one has like nudes and then like mauve tones, and then the other two are like kind of rose oriented. But if I chose, I would completely leave this one out of the mix. Like, if you were looking for like super quality, then don't go with this one. I would go with either this one if you were just trying to find a rose tone palette only. If that's all you were looking for, this one is great. If you don't think that you're going to use the other shades in this except for the rose one, go with this one because there are more options in terms of like shimmery rosy shades and all that kind of stuff. Overall, the one that I would repurchase if I ran out of, which would be very hard because I have a lot of eyeshadow, is the Maybelline. Why did I say it like that? It is the Maybelline Nudes of New York palette. I just think it hits all of the bases. I think it's great for anybody, you know, because it has some of the fun colors over here, but then it has just a really nice warm tone / neutral usable color scheme on the other side. I just think this one, oh gosh, I just think this one is worth it more than any of the other ones, and it's also one of the cheapest. So yeah, I hope you guys liked this Battle of the Eyeshadows video. I really like doing this kind of stuff, kind of seeing, like, you know, what competes with other things and what is really worth your money, so you guys don't have to go out and buy a bunch of different palettes before you find something that you actually like. So if you guys liked this video, then go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Hit the notification bell down below and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Remember to follow me on social media. On Instagram, I am at Makeup with Moni, and on Snapchat, I am Moni1196. And don't forget that you can also email me, give me some video ideas or some feedback at imakeuplikethis96@gmail.com. I have fun new videos coming up. I keep saying that, but I just have a ton of new ideas that I'm super excited about. So just keep an eye out for that. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.